Hello world, today at Genergy on the ground we talk about motor pumps. In our previous video, I was referring to those questions that the person who is going to acquire a motor pump has to ask, and that is, where is the water? Where am I going to take the water, and what am I going to use the water with where I take it? There are certainly more questions to be asked. You also have to know how to ask yourself the question, how much water do I need up there? What water flow? At what pressure do I want her? Because of course, as I said, what am I going to use it for? It is not the same to use loose water as with a sprinkler than with drip irrigation. And also another question that must certainly be asked is, what type of water do I have? Because of course, if the water is salty, I will have to use this motor pump, a Cantabrico. If the water is loaded, dirty water, I will have to use the Guadalquivir or the Obi, any of these two pumps, depending on flow rates. But today we're going to answer more questions. And indeed, we are going to enter the matter of motor pumps, which in the end is to move liquids, that is, enter the matter of hydraulics. It's always surprising and exciting because you have to ask yourself those questions that have answers. Well, that with eureka moments. And all the things that inhabit the earth are welcomed to gravity and also water. If gravity didn't affect water, then our lakes would be there and our seas would be floating in space, right? They are squeezed, snuggled in, trapped by gravity, and in the case of hydraulics too. And let's see how this influences us, how it affects us when doing irrigation. All right? Look, we can use it in favor many times. That is, many times gravity gives us an advantage, and we are going to see those types of issues. Well, the first thing we have to know about a motor pump energy, is that they are all self-priming. The professional grade pump, like this one I have here, which is a Guadalquivir. I promise you, in the end, we are going to do an experience in the Alago River moving water so that you can see what 55,000 L coming out of a tube means. Don't miss the end of this video because we will start this motor pump to see it work. All right? Well, I told you the issue of the motor pump that we already called professional takes into account now. It is important because you have the maintenance book within reach. And you know that in the first 20 hours you have to change the running oil. That oil where the piston has already been refined, where all the parts have acquired the working gloss. And now that debris, in quotes, that has dragged the oil that is in our crankcase, we are going to remove it from the engine and we are going to add the new oil that we are now going to wait for. To change it 100 hours in motor pumps, those 100 hours are usually not achieved. Then we would have to change the oil every year. We also have to take into account that motorcycle bombs are equipment that works in the campaign, and that when the campaign ends, they are usually stored with care with storage. Okay, I advise, if I can give any advice, because many times I don't know, I would like you to please take notes of these details. Look, leaving the pump full of water all the way to the top is good. It is positive because we don't have it in the pump. If we are using water with lime and empty it, the lime that was in the water precipitates. Leaving slag inside the pump and many times lodging in the bottom part which seems that when good, we can start a pump that is even caught due to the lime, leave it completely full so that there is no oxygen in the water and the lime in the water. The lime, or we see the water and we don't see the lime. When you see lime, lime is seen when water disappears and oxygen appears. For example, in faucets where there is lime, we will see lime rings at the outlet of the faucets, but not inside the water. So, well, leaving the pump, if we have that lime water, leaving it full is a good decision. Then the gasoline tank, if you are not going to empty it perfectly well, and you are not going to empty it well. The carburetor is perfect, which I doubt you will do. It is best to fill the tank all the way to the top with gasoline and put the cap on and leave the gasoline open, so the carburetor doesn't evaporate. I have already explained this many times. Since there is no oxygen in gasoline, there is no oxidation. If you have been stopped for more than 1 year, well, maybe you have to dump the gas and add new gas. Would that be ideal? Okay, because that way we're sure that you fucked them up and the gasoline is perfect. But this storage is necessary, and of course stored in a place where there is none. For example, the other day they sent me a photo of a bomb that they had stored in a shed where there were boat equipment. That is, in the port there were boat equipment, there were nets, there were things like this. And of course, the bomb was destroyed, the salt pan was there. Everything corroded. I don't know how long the motor pump was there, but I was about to throw it away. So be careful where we put the bomb to leave it, okay? Well, let's get to the trouble. Let's see how we calculate this whole issue of pressures and flows. Watch it, let's use it. I have painted the nerve here. We are going to use the nerve for this example, which helps us to understand all the motor pumps so that we can explain, not understand which motor pump I need for the job and get it right. In other words, let's buy correctly, let's not buy badly so that later it does not serve us as we had thought. La Nervion is a motor pump that is capable of reaching a maximum flow rate of 35,000 le, and that is capable of lifting water to a height of 50 ma. What exactly does all this mean? We're going to see it right now. For starters, 50 meters high. It means that if I put the motor pump to work to extract water, and imagine that I have a glass tube that goes up, and that tube is those 50 or 55 mm high, that glass tube. When we start the motor pump incorporates its pressure, and every kilo of pressure is raised. That when she has put 1 kilo, we have raised 10 m, so that in that way when she has put her maximum pressure for which it has been designed, that 5 kil of pressure has reached 50 milliliter. So when we want to know the pressure of a motor pump, the only thing we have to do is at the barometric height, at the height of this working pump amount, we put a comma, and we already know that I have 5 kilo of pressure. It is important to know the pressure. Of course, if you are going to water with pop-up sprinklers and they tell you that each sprinkler you need 3 kilos, you buy a pump whose maximum pressure is 2 kg because they will not work. First issue that we have to take into account, that is the pressure at which the motor pump works. What am I going to do with the water when I take it there? What I said in that question in our previous video that you have already seen, indeed we already know one thing later. The curves of the motor pumps are important. For example, this is the curve of the nerve. There we are seeing two signs that I already have placed here, 40 mm high, 30 mm high to 40 mm high. I have 10,000 L, that is. What if I am the user who has to fill a tank that has 10,000 L and is 40 meter high from where the water is? I know that I am going to fill it in 1 hour because I already know that it produces 10,000 L per hour, a little more than 1 hour, because pipe friction would also have to be calculated. Anyway, there are some details, but hey, 1 hour is a good approximation because it is 10,000 L per hour. If the tank is 30 meters away, of course I will have 20,000 L. If the tank is still 10,000, I will fill it in half an hour. That is, we are going to buy the motor pump. In this hypothetical case of the tank, referring to the time I want it to take to fill the tank. I don't want it to cost me all morning. I don't have to be there. That is, I'm going to see how long I do the work I have to do. So this is a good decision. But we also have the decision of regular irrigation. If we have to water up here with 10,000 LR, we have to think about what elements we are going to use for watering. If we are doing irrigation with sprinklers, I have to take those 10,000 L and divide it by the number of sprinklers taking into account. The flow rate that the manufacturer says that each sprinkler needs to know if they are going to work for me is important. I know that here I am going to have 4 kilo of pressure, okay, but the flow rate is necessary 1,000 L to see if the sprinklers, it is of 5,000 L2 sprinklers, right? That is to say, this issue we have to see it and know that the sprinklers. Although the one in the catalog tells you that I have a sprayer that says that it costs 1,000 LL, it is also telling you 50 neo to 1500 LR. Why? Because it depends on the nozzle that the asperson has. So if I want to water everything at the same time, I will need to change the nozzles, so I have less liters. The irrigation one is fine. And if it is a dropper or, well, each liter of dropper, how many droppers does this calculation have? I'm sure you know how to do it. I'm not going to dwell on it anymore. But it is very necessary to take the pressure of the pump with respect to the work I am going to do. Okay, here we were 30 mm high and I have 20,000 L. But look, I have 3 km marked here. This is important because, of course, what happens if the terrain profile is this? I put my hose in my pipe and I got up here. We already know from what I just said a moment ago that every kilo of pressure rises 10 mir in height. Okay, but let's ask the question, if I lay the pipe parallel to the ground and the pump doesn't have to raise anything, it just has to advance with every kilo of pressure. How much increase? How far do I go? Well, every kilo of pressure you're going to advance 100 meter like that. Before we had placed a rubber, a comma here, well, to know the meters of distance I will add a 0, and in this case, in this motorcycle bomb, it is worth that it is 50 meter. Now it is 500 meter away. When gravity is not doing anything, it is not working for or against. It is always worth taking into account the type of pipe in case we use a pipe, so to say some concrete. I'm not going to reach 500 milliliters because the molecular friction of the water against the walls and the pipe is going to slow it down a lot. I will use PVC pipe, for example, which has a very low friction factor. But I had said here 3 kilometers, that is the profile of this orchard, of this land. The man arrived here with the water and now he has this profile of the valley and the plain where he wants to water. It's here, there, 2 miles away. Of course, it is easy to imagine that if I build a construction canal here, they're kicking wherever we go. We will see this type of channel as I have arrived here with 30,000 L, with 20,000 L at these 30 high. I build the channel sized for those 20,000 L and that's it. I already have the water. I have the 20,000 L here in the Vega. Let's imagine this Vega here finally with respect to the level. The bomb would be to say something 10 mm high, 10 mm high. What's the matter? Well, if instead of a channel what I place is a rigid hose, a tube that supports the pressure of gravity, that is a structured pipe, here I will have a complete unhook. If I have arrived here with the pump pipe in question, let's imagine here I arrive with 50 pipe, which is the pump pipe, and here I increase it to 80, okay, and I take it here worth 80. You're already imagining what's happening here, the weight of the water that's coming off here. It means that now the curve is no longer 30 to 1000 L, but the curve has changed, it has varied. we would see a curve that is not 20,000 LE but higher, because I have put gravity to work in my favor. Do you understand the concept? So gravity is working in my favor. The curve is not this curve anymore. It's not so precise anymore. Because I'm not on the rise. Now I'm up and have a force of gravity in my favor that makes me work the pump at a lower curve. So I may even have to take the gas off if I need less water. This is important that we know it and practice it, but always. It is clear, it is understood, it is easy. So every time we install a motor pump, be it this one to water a small garden, that is the professional one, Guadalquivir 55,000 L to do anything I'm going to do. If I am watering the garden and the garden is here and here I have the small pond, what I have to do immediately when the hose comes out of here, it is to lift it, put 2 sticks in a cross if I want, and lift my hose above that of the pump. As long as this is done, the hose will be rigid walled. It will not be channel crusher, it will not be plastic or not, because it will be crushed in the fall. That is, it has to be the hose that supports the pressure of external gravity. So if I put this stick and make the hose go up and down my motor pump, it will get more flow, or I will get the motor pump to lower its revolutions. For what? Because now I have the same flow. I have stopped, the motor pump has stopped suffering, because only the motor pump works up to here. From here to there, I have gravity working for me. So this from here to there does not consume gasoline. This from here to here, yes. But if I leave the hose lying on the ground, all the thrust depends on the gasoline in my motor pump. It's easy to tell you that in pumps of this type, if I want to work it for 12 hours, I don't know when I have a crop that has to be watered with a motor pump. Let's be serious. I'm not going to let my crop be broken. Because they told me that he has my motor pump, that he should rest my friend in the sack with the motor pump, because my harvest will not dry up. I can tell you that the motorcycle bomb has to work less time. My bread doesn't dry up. I have to water it well. If this is the case, don't worry. Of course, if I have to water with 55,000 L, I have to get a pump that is capable of carrying 100,000 to 150,000 L, for example. This pump is worth this pump that is the Amazon or the Volga. It's motor pump of great water movements to water less water than it gives. Why? Because this will allow me to leave the engine at very low revolutions in a class. That makes the engine work at low temperatures in the torrid summer of our lands, perhaps with a shady sward with a small improvised pergola, but there will be my pump and energy motorcycle working to save my crop. But I will have been honest, and I will have sized the pump for the job I want to do, okay? Well, up to here we are going to take our Guadalquivir, and we are going to this great river, the Alago River, and we are going to see how this takes out 55,000 liters per one pipe. Would you like to join me? Yes, here we are in the Alago River, which as you know, is flowing towards the Tagus, because it is a tributary. That's why it flows. It is a tributary of the Tagus, and its largest tributary is the Genergy River. So, well, we have thrown out the hose. Here we have our Guadalquivir, our motor pump, and we are going to test it so that you can see those types of things that can happen and what it is to handle a pump of this type. Okay, come on, well, let's do it. Look, first I want to teach you. The first fundamental thing, okay, is the hose. We always have to place the filter standing up. Look at the standing filter. It is a dirty water pump, and we see the holes are large because it holds up. All these particles can pass through the pump. It's worth what the particles in that charged water would be. Let's throw the hose in there. Well, second question, to be able to get water out is to fill the pump, but be careful if the pump does not suck. We have to take this into account, which are closures. Look, I'm using a Kemplock type closure, these closures you are. That we are using at Genergy, and that I advise you that whenever you ask for a motor pump, you ask for this type of system. What you have already seen, which are quick links, Genergy hermetic systems. Notice how fast and how well the closing system is placed. Here a close-up. Look, I have simply fixed it. This part is fixed with Teflon and enclosed. Although it is conical and perhaps it didn't even need Teflon, I simply put it in here and close the closure, this one and the other one that is here with this. I already have it if I have the clamps properly placed. And it doesn't take air. This gets water out the first time. Of course, you have to fill what is the bomb body. You have to fill it through this plug first time so that the pump has water, so that it can vacuum, so that it can close. Okay? Well, I should have brought a funnel, but let's trust it there.
I'm coming. Come, shall we fill this with water? Look, it's already coming out that way. It means it's full. We've run out of water for expulsion.
Let's get started quickly.
And get some water, see if it's true.
First thing, here is our critical piece.
Oh, start, we'll put it on.
Here on, because if it is off,
it won't start. In on.
Okay, here we take into account. Now let's put it here. We come here.
We open gas.
And we're going to start with the air always closed. Okay, shall we?
I wonder about the acceleration. Okay there? Perfect. Let's speed it up so that the pump starts swallowing water to bring water.
Look, it's already filling up with water. I'm going to speed up.
Let's achieve greater speed.
There it is. Look at you.
What way to get water? We can work to
maintain low revolutions and stabilize. This is what I meant by sizing the pump well, because now those revolutions that are practically idle, I have a huge water flow without being sacrificing the motor. Notice what this inventive water flow means.
Great. Well, you have already seen what 55,000L and the fast link systems mean. That is, our Guadalquivir has behaved as always, showing its reliability once again. This motorcycle pump handles dirty water efficiently, and you have already witnessed it in action. Although the water from the Alarcón River was turbid, it was still clean, not loaded with contaminants. We should conclude here. As I always mention, more details can be found at Genergy.es. Today, we're excited to introduce you to this brand new page. Here it is, where you can explore everything I previously explained in detail. You can navigate and discover all the information effortlessly and without any issues. For any queries, feel free to contact us via email, mine, my colleagues, and our phone numbers are readily available. Your inquiries are welcome and hold great importance.
Never stop learning, no matter what.